Hello and welcome to part 2 of the autumn walk around, just going through some plans for the next sort of 6 months landscaping wise and planting schemes for next year, because I want to get them in early so that anything that's going to go mad root wise, i.e. the fig tree, the Fatsias, any Dixonias, Cyathias, whatever, the littler, smaller plants, i.e. like the climbers and the small ferns, have had a good few months to get their roots down so that they don't get overtaken. So yeah, yesterday didn't get around to doing this again, so this is the next morning. It's nice and bright and warm again. So yesterday the gist of it was sort of this area, and the main takeaway from it was where that sort of trellis is over on the left. In line with that and this fence post here, 2 fence posts in and around that jut out for an open-aired pergola against the house, and then this section in front of the garage will be up to the trellis, will be a sort of covered, with a plastic covering, and then this part here is a seating area, evening seating area, so there'll be a little bit of a roof on it, so I need to put a fence post down here just to the left of that Dryopteris at the nearest to us. Also said about getting some vertical space covered, because it looks a bit bare, and it will obviously look bare more and more we get into winter, so I need some evergreen climbers. So I decided, as this is an evening seating area and we get a little breeze comes off the top of the garage towards us, that'd be a good place for the star jasmine, white flowers for the evening light, and also it's scented, so when you set up there in the evening, that's when the flowers will open and you get the scent. The Fatsia is going to climb up as it is now, and then I'm going to train it across 2 wires up high at the top there, because there'll be a seat there, so I don't want to put anything in the ground. Background here, probably a Persian ivy, something like that, just something ivy-ish, just to tie up with the Fatsia, and that's pretty much as far as we got to. One thing I am going to do this winter, and this winter alone, is, I didn't say it yesterday, but I bought one of them moisture meters, which we'll go and find in a minute, with the 2 prongs on, and I put them in the ground, and it was saying it was wet everywhere, and as it had been raining I didn't think anything of it, but then when I started digging in that area just to do something, it was bone dry about whatever it was, 3-4 inches down. So I think if you just stick them in the ground, they sort of pick up the moisture from the top. So I've sort of dug down, put that bit of pipe in there, which is just shorter than the prong length, so when I dip the prong in there, the bottom of the prong isn't touching anything wet, or the whole prong isn't touching anything wet, but the bottom is in the ground, sort of a good 6 inches down or whatever they are. So there's 6 of them dotted around in certain flower beds, and the main idea of that is so that I know obviously every winter's different, but I just want to know the difference in moisture and temperature between the flower beds relative to themselves. So let's just say, for argument's sake, that this flower bed, I'll get some minimum and maximum temperature gauges and put them in there as well, and then it should just mean that I can come out of a morning, if it's been cold, say it's been 0 degrees in this bed, what's the temperature been in that bed, what's the temperature been in that bed, and what's the temperature been in that bed, and hopefully I can pick out any warm or cold pockets in the garden, which will give me an idea for planting. Mainly the Cyathea is what I'm worried about, so I want to put a couple of Cyatheas in the ground. So going on from that, if we move across to this section, we've got the Fatsia in there. He's doing quite well, he likes it there. The aim of him is to cover up this top section here when he eventually grows. He was in that corner for the most part. I moved him there, and then rather than move it back, I just bought a higher Fatsia, a taller Fatsia. Polypodium in there, pretty much just Polypodium Vulgare down there. He's pretty much just, they're really tough, these ferns. I've got one in pretty much full sun, hot and humid, and then this one's in full shade and wet. They're both doing really well, so they seem to be pretty tough, i.e. they might be used in the vertical garden when I get to it. So he's doing alright there. He's been moved around a bit, but he seems to like it there. The Arata is actually in its original spot and is one of the first ferns I put out last year, and you can see how well he's doing. He looks really good, this one. I do like these things, so he'll stay there. Now this section here, we've got a new fern here. I forget the name of it. It's a Taiwanese fern, but you can see that it's kind of a bit more of a stalky one, as opposed to these sort of rosette shaped ones. Now what I'm thinking in this section, this is probably the one I want to get done first, is this Dixonia does lovely where it sort of comes out at knee height above and over the playground sort of area, the bark, so that when the kid runs through, it's almost like he's running through a jungle. Going to get another one of them Dixonias in this section here, the equivalent distance off, so basically in and around where that Polyblepharum is, which is in the centre of the screen now. That one looks like it's just coming back to life. So I'm thinking here, I need the 2 climbers. I'm just going to get, my wife likes the Hydrangea Petoralaris flowers. There's a certain climbing hydrangea flowers which you can just get at any garden centre, there's nothing special, but it's evergreen, it likes shade. I've got 2 climbing hydrangeas at the back which are the Pilostegia Virburnoides, so that will tie in quite nicely, and hopefully that will cover this sort of section here on the vertical space. But when it comes to the vertical space and jutting out, I think I might put a Setiferum in there, something in and around the size of that one in that pot. Now obviously the trouble is going to be with overwintering, but I was thinking the other day, like this Arata here, and then the ones like this Polystichum Setiferum Herrenhausen, which is just coming back to life now and got a bit of vibrancy to it, they would do really well as kind of frost cover for the trunks, you know what I mean? If I was to put that Herrenhausen where this new fern is, and then put the Cyathea in between them, in my mind in the winter, if these 2 are evergreen, they'll keep a lot of the frost off the roots and the base part of the trunk, if you want to call it that, and that will mean less overwintering for me basically. But you know, we're talking sort of not high level stuff there, but stuff that's a bit more tricky, so I want to get all the stuff in that's pretty low maintenance first if I can, but that's just something I'll probably do there. And what I'll do, because this one's another original one that's been there and is really loving life, I actually put this Herrenhausen in at the same time and they were the same size, but this one does get sun and it doesn't like it, so I think I might move that one very shortly actually over to here, pretty much like I said, to the right of this new fern, as it were. Take that fern out and put them just to the right, between that fern and the labels, if you like, and then that'll do 2 jobs. It'll cover the Setiferum and it will also cover the sort of roots of that fig tree. I'm well aware that fig tree is going to go absolutely mental root wise, so I need to get the plants in this, the 2 climbers, the 2 hydrangeas in, and any plants in there, and then the Setiferum will be alright. It'll be over there to put in next year. Whether it's that particular Setiferum or not, I might get an Australis or something different, but that's the plans for that, and I may do something with that fairly shortly. Other than that, moving around, this is a Dryopteris Wallichiana that I just put in 2 or 3 weeks ago. The aim is for it to sort of come across and up pretty similar to this at a low level. Then I'll move this Polyblepharum, which is just coming back to life. It looks really good in spring. When it first unfurls, it looks really amazing. It's got a nice glimmer to it, but not great for the rest of the time, as you can see. So yeah, I'll have a think with that one, what I'm going to do. But effectively there'll be a tree fern with a 1 or 2 foot trunk on it, like that one over there in that section. The Aspleniums are loving life there. That's really dark shade, so I'm happy with that. Got the Pilostegia in the corner, which is going to sort of grow up this area and up this area, and then I'm hoping that Pilostegia will sort of cover this sort of section. This Fatsia is starting to flower, so that's quite good. He's quite nice there, nice stalks, nice stems on him, or trunks, whatever you want to call them, so I'm happy with that. So yeah, a few bits to do in there, but otherwise I'm quite happy with it. Like I said, this thing's just the start, last week started showing its stuff again, and can you see how there, I did mention it in one of the first videos I ever did, but it sort of fires it fronds out rather than unfurls them, so it's quite nice to look at. This section here, that's a royal fern, and that is the ostrich feather fern, or Matitua Dryopteris. I'm not sure I can imitate the conditions they need, because neither of them have done anything this year. So I might leave them in and see what happens when they unfurl in spring, assuming that they're deciduous. So yeah, we'll see what happens with them, but otherwise that's a nice spot for me to fill, so that could be a place for another Setiferum, because it'd be up quite high there. The Taiwaniana is not getting any sun anymore. The sun's dipped low enough that it's not getting any sun, so it's in full shade. It hasn't wooded up, not fully anyway, so yeah, I guess it's just to suck it and see on that one. If I need to, I'll probably leave it in the ground and not take him up. I might just put something around him if it's going to get particularly cold. This climber, like I said, the Pilostegia Virburnoides, has got quite a nice sort of foliage on it. Looking forward to that one next year. This Herrenhausen, like I said, I'll probably move over there where my wind detecting flag is. Here we've got the Woodwardia Radicans, which is sending up another frond, you can probably see there. So he's ticking along quite nicely. I think this one might need a little bit of protection, but I saw a bigger one of these and they actually look like this when they're full grown, as in they don't sort of bush out and cover themselves in the centre. All the fronds are almost, yeah, on stalks. So I'm going to have to get something to kind of cover that, if you know what I mean, i.e. a fern that will overgrow it. So I'll have a think about that. So we've got some nice options here. Anyway, I've got a bit of space there to put something in, maybe a bit of space here to put something in. So that's quite nice, gives me room to manoeuvre. Again, I might get another short Dixonia in here, maybe go for something different like a Sclerosa or a Fibrosa or something. I need to do a little bit of research into them. But otherwise, Lophosoria is doing really well. It is a bit of a Judas though, because it was when I had this problem with all the whitefly the last probably month. I was sort of looking around for them and I noticed it was the Lophosoria that they were all hiding under. So yeah, a bit of a Judas there, but there we go. You know, it's worth it for that one. So there'll be another when that dahlia's finished going, which I definitely need to not deadhead, because that thing looks fantastic now. Now I've deadheaded it for about a week and a half, whereas when I was doing it I was only having 2 or 3 come up. So either I'm doing it wrong, or well, I am doing it wrong. So yeah, but he looks quite nice still. He's flowering quite nicely, but when he's done, another Lophosoria will go there, and then what that will mean is on the corner by the slide is a Dryopteris Wallichiana, across to the Wallichiana over where the current tree fern is. Lophosoria there, and then on that entrance we've got 2 Aratas, so they all tie up quite nicely. This crispum crested fern, which is an Aphenis, I think, that's going to go over in Camellia Corner, because there's a crested fern over there, and then I'll move the sword fern, the Polystichum Polyblepharum, into this spot just for now. Knifophias, I'm a little bit tied on. They sort of I don't know. I don't know why, but I quite like them, even though they don't go with anything. I did quite like it, that. So I'll be a bit sad to see it go, but I think like I'm gonna need 2 climbers in there. One as far in that corner towards the Setiferum as possible, which is going to go up over the waterfall, and then one to actually cover this fence. The one I've got earmarked is the Clematis Armandii, which is quite big sort of leaves, which is what I want it for, evergreen leaves. But it does have white flowers, and obviously once the sun goes past midday and goes past this fence, it will bring out the whiteness of the flowers, so that's quite a good spot for it, I feel. The T-Rex, yeah, this is my big concern, along with the giant honeysuckle. I just don't think it's going to get to where I need it to before it gets cold. I'm going to leave it for a bit. It seems to be doing okay, and I guess sort of treat them mean, keep them keen within reason. Sorry, I've got a bit of frog on my throat this morning. This one here is the Schefflera Rhododendrofloria. He's doing alright. He was actually outside in the garden centre last year in a pot, so he should be alright just to leave there. He's been absolutely brutalised by aphids and whatever that is growing on that leaf, etc. But you know, you gotta be tough, haven't you? You gotta be tough. That's what I keep telling it. So anyway, so yeah, we got the 2 pups which I chopped off of that banana over in that bed. I probably shouldn't have though, because they were this side of it, which means that they would have come out over the rocks a lot more, and also that banana is tilting now, so yeah, and I might have done it. It's winter hardiness in a little bit, so we'll see how they go. But they're my emergency, so those I literally won't do anything with them. I'll just pick up the pots as they are, chuck them in the back of the garage, and no natural light, just leave them in there. That's what I did with those last year. They were actually smaller than that when I did it, so they should be okay. This particular Cyathea, I'll probably aim next year to put it in where this crested one is. I've just got to work out height wise, because as you can see, I've cleared out the rocks that were all on my base for the waterfall. I got this done in whenever it was, February or something like that, before I did anything else. So I've just poured a bit of a concrete base down, and then the idea is to build up like a bookshelf, as it were, out of blocks, and then lay a pond liner on top of it all, and then just set all these rocks on top of it in certain places to make a waterfall. But you can see I've mocked up my bar stool. If we have a look, I've got this big stone here, which is a really nice stone and really nice and flat, so it makes sense to use it as like a bar, if you see what I mean. So that's where that's going to be. So we've got the 2 bar stools. That will sit on blocks, and it will be about that high. That I've just cut a stencil out, obviously, because it's safer. But the good thing that we've got with this is that the top of it is like a V, which means that I can sit that back part, the pinnacle of the V, if you like, against the rocks, and then actually have the waterfall come down from up high and split and vanish into the 2 holes that are sort of left by the V itself. So that's just something I need to flesh out. We'll get to that much more in detail in a later date when I start to do it. The only thing I need to think about is logistics, because if I'm going to be laying loads of blocks, it's probably going to be a pallet and a half of blocks and thermalite mixed in. I'm going to need room for a cement mixer and that, so got to make room here for the cement mixer, dumpy bag of sand and cement, and a wheelbarrow, so that the cement can just be nice and easy. I don't have to try and get it up over this hill and edge in. Which means that all the blocks and rocks are going to have to go down in that section there. So that's why I've just been winterising everything at the moment, but he's ready to go. Or rather, he will be ready to go when I've spent money, but I'm going to need to get everything all at once for that one, so I can't like sort of drip feed it. I'm going to have to buy the pump, I'm going to have to buy the spillway, not necessarily the pond liner, but I'm going to need those 2 in, and then when those 2 are in, I've sort of worked out what's going on with it. Does the pump need to be submerged, or can I run it off a little hose and have it, outside sort of thing? Then I can work out, you probably haven't noticed, but those 2 armoured cables there, one of them's a sort of main socket one of them's a lighting one. They run, I went around it, I talked about this in the water rig one I did a couple of videos ago. They go into this sort of trunk in, run along that flower bed, along that fence, and then stick their head out underneath the water butt over in that corner. So I'll probably end up with a socket on the side of this planter, just to run the pump and the any lights that I might put in and around the waterfall. So yeah, speaking of this plant, you can see I've got a couple of ferns in there. That's an Ariostegia Pravipinnata. That's a new fern as well, the little, and it's an Andean fern. I can't remember what it's called, a Denistadia glauca, I think, something like that. But they're stalky again and feathery, so I figure if you're sat there, that's about head height, the top row of blocks when you're sat on it. So with the stalk, they should come up and arch over towards us, which would give it a nice effect, I think. And what I've done with that bed, thought about it again, I've just put a little pipe in there to the left, as you can see in the centre. That actually, I can't really get over it. Oh yeah, I can, let's try it. Sticks his head up in there, as you can just see there, so I can feed when I want to put drip irrigation in there, I can just run the irrigation all up here, up behind, underneath those 2 triangular blocks there. You can see the gap between the seat and the actual wall, and then come here, up across the waterfall, and then a little tee off and up into there for a little high dripper. So yeah, plenty going on to try and get it all done in 6 months, but we'll see how we do. So I've run out of time again. I do like to waffle on, but there we go, what can you do? But that's pretty much all these areas sorted. Really, I want to maybe get the 2 climbers in over there, because I'll need them to get a good maybe even 6 months to 8 months, years of roots in before I put the Cyathea in, definitely, and before that fig tree goes mental next year, so need to do that fairly sharpish. But anyway, looks like there's going to be a part 3 to this one, so we'll go through this bed, that bed, Camellia corner and whatnot then. Okay.